I believe this is the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Robert. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, good evening, everybody. And welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission of Smithfield Township here for February 2025. We have everyone in attendance. That's excellent. Where'd Diana go?
She is actually, I'm taking the minutes for you guys for this one because she handled for the one,
Okay.
the last meeting, so you stuck with me again, I hope.
Oh, that's okay. This one, okay.
Beth, your handwriting is lovely, by the way.
Yeah, right. All right. So our agenda actually lightened up relatively significantly here in the last 48 hours. So let's start here. Let's take a look at the meetings, the minutes of the joint meeting from from November 14, 2024. Let's take a look. This was a joint meeting with the supervisors when we were discussing one of our meetings with the signage ordinances.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the November 14 minutes, seconded by James Renee. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next, December 12 minutes of our regular planning commission. Take a look at this one. This was a pretty busy night, so take a look. Yeah. This is what you sent. This is what you'd sent around.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're pretty gabby.
Well, we had a lot on that one. All right, I make a motion that we accept the minutes of December 12, 2024 of our regular meeting.
I second.
Seconded by James Binet. Any discussion from the commission? All in favor? Okay. Now, I think we have one more, right? Yes, we do. And this is our January 9, 2025 meeting. These are the minutes from our reorganization. And then we went into our regular business thereafter. Somebody take a look. Make a motion.
I wasn't at that meeting, but they had me as president.
Was the January one the one you missed? Okay. Oh, I do see you're there, yeah.
Right here, we approved the 14th of November if there's no meeting.
Yeah, well, there it is. Oh.
Do it again.
All right, I make a motion that we accept these minutes from January 9 with one exception. We do incorrectly have Chris Bowers listed as being present. He was not there that day. So we make that change in them. So I'll make that motion. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Jean. Any discussion?
I have one question.
All right.
I don't know if this is appropriate at this time or not, but on page 3, I guess the second from the last paragraph where it says, let's see. Commissioner Maury motions to grant preliminary and final approval subject to compliance with T&M Associates review. Who follows up on that? Like how does that work when they get approval, but they have to do certain things?
That then goes to the supervisors. All right, for their approval, which they can also have those conditions on, and then they won't get the permit to begin to work unless Unless those remaining few conditions in the
Okay.
engineering are done, that's how it goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why we can do them that way, because it's still got one, if not two steps. Okay? Anything else? All in favor? Aye, that's good. Okay, let's see here. Put this back this way. Now, let's take care of the two things that we can knock off. There's our list. So under old business first, we're gonna quickly move to the 3 Point Garden major subdivision that is table. That came in on their request a couple of days ago. So that one is off. I see they do have a deadline there of the 26th of this month.
That is correct. 3 Point Garden has promised me that they'll get me an extension. If I don't have one by the Thursday before the Board of Supervisors meeting, they'll be placed on the Board of Supervisors meeting for denial.
Okay.
Before we leave that,
Well, go ahead, Lynch.
regarding the 3 Points Garden, I asked John about this earlier. I just wanted to make sure I understood, and maybe somebody can provide some light to this. Some of the issues that the local residents have with that property is the amount of stormwater coming down either Franklin Hill, 3 Points Garden, and eroding away the edges of the road. And, you know, they're concerned about the development of that property, if that will cause more problems or what. So the way I understand it is the water that goes on that the water coming off the road onto that property, they don't have to account for in their storm drainage, right? Their calculations. So it's really the township's responsibility to handle that. Is that correct? Okay, so the only thing that the people that are developing that 3 Points Garden property have to do is account for the stormwater that, and by that I mean the rain falling down onto that property to detain it or channel it
Or infiltrate it.
and they don't have to worry about or account for the stormwater that's coming from the properties uphill.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, they may want, once it enters their property, they may want to divert it, channel it, or do something to protect their improvements that they're gonna be making. But they have no obligation to detain it or infiltrate it or any of that.
Is,
You guys
I'm
get
sorry,
that?
is the stormwater coming from approved, otherwise approved roads, pathway, cartways for development? I mean, where's the stormwater collected?
It's coming down the road. It's flowing down the edges of the road and on the road, sheet flowing.
Yeah,
And then again, it gets off to the edge, and when it's a lot of water, help me out, Tim. It erodes,
Yeah, that's right and wrong. It's coming through the property.
but where does it originate? Obviously uphill.
That's correct. And then.
On the public road?
No, not off from public road. No, it's coming from, properties and sheet flow, you know, or down the sides of the road. I have pictures. I'll get.
When you say the road, what road are you talking about?
Franklin Hill and 3 Point Garden.
Okay,
So if you guys had the opportunity to look at the packet that I submitted, I know Dave did.
Yeah, I think we all did.
But I hope all of you look at it, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about, but there's plenty of water issues from the road, which would be township problems to improve the existing infrastructure. And the water that comes through the property is, yes, it's maybe not being generated at the property, but it's coming through. And then from there is causing problems because it's picking up more, flow from the property also.
okay, but what I'm asking is that water that's coming before it gets to what you call the property, is it coming off otherwise permitted structures or
Yes and no.
pathways, cartways?
Yes and no. There's one that comes from the First Baptist church property above my property.
Okay.
It is not developed.
That's correct. But it was approved to be developed.
Yeah, but then they kept bringing access
Right,
road.
but they redid all the water in there in the pond structure. They drained the pond, redid everything.
Yeah,
And so that is a intentionally diverted water.
diverted
Now,
where?
What's that?
Where is it diverted to?
Across Franklin Hill, which comes onto the LTS property.
Across the road.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then it erodes, it comes through my property
Yeah,
and erodes, undermines the side road, exposes that high pressure gas line, you know,
Right.
so something needs to be done. So any extra, I get it, they're not responsible for that stuff, but they're gonna be adding to it.
Well, no, not necessarily, not because, John, help me out if I'm wrong here, but I think they have to manage their own stormwater. They're not allowed to exfiltrate water
Yeah.
onto the street.
And I completely understand that, but the big issue that I have and everybody's concern is what's the backup plan when that does fail? Because that will fail.
Dave, let me back up on my statement because I probably wasn't 100% correct. I was looking at it strictly from who is responsible for that water, but our ordinance does require, we haven't required developers to do it very often. But our ordinance does require that developers, if a road on their frontage, Franklin Hill would be that, is inadequate as defined by our ordinance, we can require the developer to bring it up to ordinance standards. And usually that would require widening and then a suitable swale or pipes if necessary to convey water. Now, what we've done most recently in the past, we waived that. We've asked people to dedicate the right of way and put in a shoulder. But the ordinance does have language where we could require them to.
Okay, well, that's what
increase
I
that.
wanna know what is a reasonable condition to put on this property for the development, and what would be reasonable for them to do to help alleviate some of the problem that's occurring?
Well, okay, we could refer to that section in the ordinance and ask them to do that.
Okay, I wanted to manage expectations for when they do come in front of us, so we know how hard we can push to get them to help fix it. But I also wanna, at least from my personal opinion, I think the township is gonna have to bear some responsibility in fixing some of the issues of that erosion that's occurring along the road.
And just note that it's not, yeah, most of the damage obviously has happened on Franklin Hill. And to my property, but there has been undermining from on the shoulders on 3 Point Garden also from that side of the property too.
Okay.
And then that actually comes down so much that it floods the person that they're just remodeling the house. I don't know their new name. On the corner of 3 Point Garden and 447. They've been doing some extensive remodeling there. It just flows through their property and then it sheets across 447.
Yeah.
So that's going on to a state road.
Are there storm pipes in that road anywhere?
Yes, there is, but they can't handle it. That's the same with Franklin Hill. The one that's coming down along my property, it just can't handle it.
Yeah. Is it because they're not being maintained or they're just not large?
No, they're free, they're
Yeah.
flowing free, but there's just so much volume.
Because we used to have that problem in our office, the drain pipe would get plugged up,
Yep,
and then it would all just come
Oh,
out of
and
the
then
office property,
right.
and we'd flood
No,
out.
and actually what happens is, you know, as you see by the pictures, it comes down and actually ponds and pools up on part of my property, and onto LTS's property, from all that creek, this intermittent creek, you know, you wanna call it. I know, to me, I'll argue how LTS's, wetland study was, finalized. It's not an intermittent, or it's not, they didn't even acknowledge it as an intermittent creek. My Lisa Sparnan with, Sparnan Wetland Studies did acknowledge it as a intermittent brick. And of course, I have pictures to prove it, that it's not just sitting there, you know, so it is, it's like that definitely needs to be addressed, so I appreciate you. You know,
So, John,
looking into it.
when they ultimately do their stormwater management plan, they haven't submitted that yet, right?
No, that was one of the big arguments.
Right.
That was what we
That
had
was the
last
reason we
time,
paid
yeah,
that.
it was a big one,
Right,
2
yeah.
months ago, yeah.
So when you look at that, could you have an eye on what they're doing for other water flowing into it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We always do.
Mhm.
And, just to comment about the existing pipes. If those pipes are old, when I say old, 30 years or more, they were probably only put in with a 10-year storm in mind. Today, the requirements would be at a minimum 25 and more likely a 50-year storm, which would be able to accommodate a lot more water.
Several more inches.
Yeah, but how far do you go? Because now you gotta go down 447, you gotta go,
That's always the question
Yeah.
and the issue,
because that's at the top of the hill right there.
right? That's always the question and the issue.
Mhm.
Okay, keep moving on,
The
sorry.
question though, will the storm water management that LTS creates on their property, will that help any water coming onto the property help secure some of it because it wasn't there before, but it is there now?
No.
Won't do it.
Well, that's what we were talking about and why I first said it's not their responsibility. The water that comes from upstream onto their property. It is what it is.
Right,
And they don't have to slow it down or do anything.
but will it be
with
slowed down because of what they have to do on their property or no?
It may be, depending on their choice of stormwater management. But they're not obligated to. Sometimes it's just easier to manage it because that's the best for them. But they're not obligated to.
But can I ask you, Nick, real quick, so what happens then, if they're not obligated to manage it, or if you guys don't press them, or whatever the outcome, and then there is damage? Like a lot of people unfortunately through the township have, and other townships have suffered because of development. You know, even though things got approved, and then it's the aftermath that people now have problems that they never had before, and they try and go after, you know, these developers, you know, for restitution, and nothing ever happens, or they just can't afford to fight. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, because I see a problem rearing its ugly head already, because there's already a problem. So I don't wanna go down that rabbit hole.
Right, I guess what I wanted to enlighten tonight was that even if 3 Point Gardens wasn't here, the problem would continue.
That's correct.
And with 3 Point Gardens doing their development, the problem still continues. So my point is that they're not obligated to address that. But what I was hoping we could do is to put some kind of condition in the development requirements that they have to put in. What do they call them, culverts or ditches or something?
Well, that's just gonna pass the problem, as he mentioned, down the road. I mean,
But it's not their responsibility to be more than that.
Infiltrate.
right. Now, we can put improvements along Franklin Hill Road, like I said, because the teeth is in the ordinance to do that. But you're still gonna have that same volume of water. It's gonna be handled in a better fashion on Franklin Hill Road. And they're gonna handle it some way on their own development, so it doesn't impact them. But when it gets to the bottom of the hill, it's gonna be the same volume of water at the end as what gets there right now.
Well, I don't have the authority to ask you to do anything, but maybe the supervisors could talk to our engineer and have them look at some possible solutions that could be a condition in the development of 3 Points Garden and also moving forward to help that area, okay?
Well, I think we ought to put it on the developer. I mean, we could ask him to look at that. Now, we see he's willing to push back. But, you know,
John, isn't there also some provision in the code that, in order to get the final sign off by the building inspector, the landscaping has to conform with some requirements so that it does not cause flooding?
That's,
Something like that.
well, he cannot. He's not gonna cause any flooding on his own property, because he's gonna design it properly, or else he won't be able to sell the houses, or if he does, he's gonna have disgruntled customers who are gonna be clamoring at his office. And he's not allowed to increase the rate of runoff from his property as a result of developing it. And he's probably actually gonna reduce the volume, because he has to infiltrate a lot of it back into the ground. But if you've got a whole lot of water coming across that property right now that is causing problems down at the bottom of the hill, in theory, he doesn't have to touch that water, and he doesn't have to do anything about it. In theory. Practically, he's probably gonna have to do something with it, but
Well, it'll create problems if he doesn't do something, it'll create problems for the houses that are built
that's correct.
anyways.
That's correct.
Anyway, yeah.
Now, what, is that just in Smithfield Township?
No, that's everywhere.
Is it? Cause I had to do a major restoration up in Pocono Township for a customer that had extreme amount of water come through their property, wasn't generated through their, so same with it like this. Came down Sullivan Trail, crossed through a bunch of properties, washed out their back of their property, created problems down the road for other people. But the Monroe County Conservation District had to supervise me to have his property restored on his expense, because the damage that happened down the road generated from his property, even though the water came from up the road. So, and that was, yeah, that was.
That was my
supervised through-
question.
That was, and I had to build all this stuff, all these all this retention stuff according to their plan.
Well, I can't comment on that, because
No,
obviously I don't know.
But it didn't make any sense, because it's like the water didn't come from his property. You know, so I just don't wanna get into, like I said, another problem like that. If my property keeps getting damaged, you know,
Right.
who's gonna be responsible for it?
Right. Well, the only thing I can tell you, we're gonna take a very hard and very
Right.
close look at
And
it.
I appreciate that,
And there'll be plenty of opportunity to comment.
right? Okay.
Yeah, Brett.
Scott, given your concern, how, is this the right forum to discuss a cooperative effort to manage this water? If, are we gonna permit, or we're gonna permit Mr. Weslow to develop there? And as he said, he doesn't know if he can handle the stormwater on the property. Given your concern, Mr. Strong, how can we plan to deal with this problem so we don't run down the same road? Is this the right forum?
I think this is what we're doing though, Brett.
Right.
I think this is what we're,
Okay, so when he comes in here, when Bob comes in here and says, I can't handle it, give me my permit, I'll do what I can, and you know it's not gonna work. How do we proceed? Should we delay the process
Deny it.
while the township and Mr. Wessel come to some kind of a co-responsible management program? How does it work? In advance, rather, if he's gonna come here doing his strong arm thing, and we're gonna have that concern, because it's partially the township's responsibility, it'll be partially his. How do we deal with that in advance? How do we approach that problem with Mr. Westland? Am I making
Well,
sense here?
there's very objective criteria
Yeah,
that
I-
we're going to review his plans
Yeah.
against, and he's either gonna meet it or he's not. If he doesn't meet it, he doesn't get any permits. If he does meet it, that's all that he must do. Now, there's two people that are gonna be looking at it at a minimum, one being the township engineer and the other being the Monroe County Conservation District. And so there's two sets of eyes looking at this problem. And between the two, I mean, we're usually in sync with one another. So I don't think he's going to be able to get a plan approved that is not going to address any concerns that would result from his developing that piece of property. That may not address those existing concerns right now. We may be able to twist his arm. He may think it's in his best interest for some other reason to mitigate some of that water, but we don't know that yet until he presents his plan and we get a chance to look at it.
So there's nothing we can do in advance, prepare for him.
We are, Brett.
Recognizing the township's responsibility for some of the water coming into his property. So we're not gonna cop to that, or how are we gonna force him to manage the water off the road? I just, how do we deal with this, is he's gonna come pushing
Sure.
hard, and how do we,
Well-
what plan can we put in place in advance? Other than what you suggested, John,
Well, those are the laws we have,
right?
so that's what's in place.
Well, you know, Mr. Westlow. he's-
Let me just say it a different way. I mean, this is why I brought this subject up, if they're not here and I wanted to have a discussion, okay? I'm paraphrasing what John said, they are required to manage the water on their site, it's developed on their site, so the rain that comes down onto their property, they have to manage that. They're not obligated to manage the water that comes up from up the hill. However, as John said, is that the water is flowing through their property, so they're gonna wanna manage it, but not retain it to pass it on down, to help it get through, to not damage their property. What I was hoping is that we could put more conditions on them
Okay.
to help mitigate that problem. But I don't think we're ever gonna get to the point where everybody in this room is gonna be happy with the stormwater, because it's a huge volume, and there's no way that they could contain it all. So we're trying to come up with what we think is the best scenario and a reasonable condition for them to handle that excess runoff. But at some point, something else is gonna have to be done independent of the developer. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
All right, next. It looks like Water Gap Wellness is also asked to table a project. Now, why does this say deadline?
We missed one.
I know, I didn't get there, I'll get there.
I'm sorry.
I just wanna get the tabled one done, because I thought they were gonna be quick, but I was incorrect.
Sorry.
No problem. No, I appreciate it, actually. The Water Gap Wellness one, asked to be tabled. Are they going to put in some sort of extension? Otherwise,
Yes, I received the call from them at approximately 3:15 today that they were planning to table.
Mhm.
I believe I got that letter at about 5:15. So a little bit of a short notice. They told me that they will be sending an extension if I don't have it by March 6th, I believe.
There's March 12 on this.
Yeah,
deadline,
and
so-
they did that because the Board of Supervisors meets on March 11th. So if I don't have the extension
Oh.
in, they'll be on the March 11th Board of Supervisors meeting for denial.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So that one is also then tabled to March. Now, Franklin Hill minor subdivision planning modules, let's just get this out of the way and then we'll all get to grill the new zoning officer here. I don't think we have anything left to do on that, do we?
So I spoke with Scott Hanover, reviewed this and has no technical comments whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only thing that we need you guys to do is say, hey, this is great, and send it to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration. Ty is up in Jackson Township right now, but he is on the Zoom if you have questions for him.
Which project is this for?
This is for the Franklin Hill Manor minor subdivision
Got it,
planning.
thank you, sorry, I was trying.
Hey, this is great. I recommend we move it on to the supervisors.
Yeah, because I think we've been through this one, many times.
Do you recommend it with any conditions or just a plain recommendation?
No, it's beyond, I don't
Well, I think,
know what conditions I would put on it.
I don't know that we would necessarily put on it, right? John, do they have to, they don't have to even,
Oh, the planning module, I thought it's the
Yeah.
plan, I'm sorry.
no, we did that part of it. So the planning module, all right, I'll make a motion that we approve the Franklin Hill Manor minor subdivision planning module for approval to the supervisors. Seconded by Doug Scriber. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All right.
Mr. Chair, can I ask
Thank
one
you.
question?
Hello, you're welcome.
On the estate of Chiquitas, has that been recommended for approval and moved on? Because I don't see it on the agenda here and I don't want to lose a matter if it's still out there to be worked on.
No, give me one moment.
That was approved at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Approved.
It was approved at the last meeting. I've spoken with both our KRS and the applicant. They are cleaning up some things with Hanover Engineering based on SEO needs and whatnot. And I believe they said there are a few other things they wanted to clean up on the plan. So they've requested that it not go on the Board of Supervisors agenda
Okay.
for approval until they're ready to act. They have provided me an extension until April 30th,
Yeah,
2025.
So we should be fine. So we're just waiting for them to clean up to go before the board.
Yeah, our January
Okay.
9 was that we made a motion to grant
That's what I
preliminary
thought.
final
I
approval.
wanted to be
Yeah,
sure.
she had it in the minutes. All right. New zoning officer. Hello, Matt, I don't know who you are. Please step up front, come on in. Join us, come up front. We don't bite much.
Where do you want me?
Anyway, wherever you're comfortable, it's up to you.
I see a free seat here.
That's fine. So, before we get started, I understand, because we have Robert and Michael, I guess, so we have a new zoning officer, but it's a new zoning contract, right?
That's correct. The township contracted with Bureau Veritas. So Matthew is an employee of Bureau Veritas out of their Pocono Pines office.
So now you're assigned to us, huh?
Yes.
Full time?
Good luck, kid.
Right now I have dedicated office hours on Thursdays, 8:30 to 4:30. I'm coming in Fridays as needed to clean up some outstanding items. Thursday is my only guaranteed day here. Everything else is as needed. As things pick up in the summer, I'm sure I'll be here more.
Okay.
What's your name, your last name, please, Matt?
Helbers, Helbers.
So how many zoning complaints do you have on your desk?
On my desk only too.
How many in the box that's in the corner of it?
Do we say what we talked about today on the phone? Or do you not want to give that information out yet?
Now you gotta.
Now you have
now that you teased it.
That's okay.
There is a lot of, I haven't even gotten to most of the complaints that have been
Okay.
filed. Cause a lot of what I'm trying to do is clean up messes that were left by the prior zoning officer. In regards to things that were permitted that should not have been permitted. Things that were given verbal approval but never got a permit issued. A lot of things where I's were not dotted, T's were not crossed. Trying to get all of that thing. I have people who have been waiting on their permits for 6 months. So I'm trying to handle the hottest potato first right now. I understand that there are some larger complaints that I have already started investigating. But it's a lot, trying to get through it.
I'm sure it is.
All
I have no doubt.
as fast as I can.
Look, I have no doubt it's a lot.
Yeah.
How's he gonna do it in a day and a half?
Yeah.
That seems impossible.
We're working with a schedule right now based on Matthew's ability, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't accrue astronomical costs for the township. Part of what we're also working on is Diana and I are in the process of scanning in everything and building a digital system. Up until January 6th, none of our, I can't say none, not much of our zoning documents were digital. Everything was paper. So we're still organizing and building the system.
Good. So now tell us a little about yourself, what your background is and your expertise is.
Sure. I've been involved in municipal governments for 7 years now. I started up at Toby Hanna Township as an office assistant. I served as their zoning officer. In the time since, I have moved to my current company, Bureau Veritas, where I have served as a UCC inspector, a zoning officer for Ross Township, for Jim Thorpe Borough, and short-term rental inspector up in Green Township. So I've done a couple of different areas, municipalities. I've been a zoning officer in capacity for some township for at least 6 of those years that I've been in local government.
You're zoning officer in another part-time as well, in another?
Right now, this is my only zoning officer position. I dropped all the other ones. I trained up my replacements.
What do you do? Obviously, the day and a half you're here, you do inspecting the other time?
Inspecting, maintaining office hours, short-term rental inspections, various other duties.
How do you get to know our zoning ordinances? I mean, how are you familiarizing yourself with them?
I've done a straight read through the whole zoning ordinance already, and in practice, I find that it's best to attempt to apply it on the fly. When someone comes in here with questions, I sit there with them, go over the zoning ordinance. We piece through it together, trying to get it. Most zoning ordinances I've found are pretty similarly constructed. So it's easy once you've gotten the hang of how to read one zoning ordinance to read all of the other ones and to navigate them efficiently.
Okay. Oh, Chris, yes.
Hi, Matt. Why did you give up your other zoning positions?
As my job duties were expanding, my employer wanted me to train up other people to take over my zoning officer responsibilities so that I could focus on, they took me in, I'm actually studying to get additional certifications for UCC inspections. The other zoning officer position I had was more full-time, that was 5 days a week. So by doing part-time zoning office things, I'm able to do both building and zoning.
Got it. So you would have given those up whether or not you took this position?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been working for Bureau Veritas?
Since 2020, so
Okay,
5 years, 4.5.
okay.
You know how to use a light meter or a decibel meter?
So I have used those in the past, but the issue I have found in trying to enforce light and noise ordinances is that most courts want the person using to have some kind of official training, which I have not yet had.
We did confirm with his office, though, I spoke with Todd, who is your boss's boss. And they do have the calibrated light meter that they need. So he did say that would be available to us when it comes time that we need it.
Yeah, but I think we could probably handle 80% of the problems with just this gentleman, and if it gets challenged, then we bring in the other people.
Do you plan on having him trained to handle this, the meters and stuff? I mean, doesn't that make sense? And again, like his short term that he's gonna be here, do you feel like that's gonna be enough?
I would like to clarify that while I'm only here in the office for 1 day guaranteed, I do work on Smithfield Township throughout the week. I'm answering phone calls and emails 5 days of the week, just to clarify. The additional thing that I've run into with light meter and noise meter complaints is, while solicitors I've spoken to in the past have told me that courts want you to be officially trained, I've yet to find somebody who actually trains people in an official capacity to do that.
So there's no classes available?
None that I have found.
Matthew, I've been doing it here, like the noise, what do they call me?
I know how to read.
Whatever.
Noise enforcement officer.
There is no official training that I've ever.
Right.
Okay.
Not right.
Ron, can I ask, wouldn't that be a
That makes
reason to
sense.
challenge a judge's requirement if there is no such training?
Right.
Well, you could say that the judge is either using his or her discretion or is making a wrong legal call.
We're not even trying to attack them, but just saying, you know, we'd like to comply, but there is no such thing.
But I can tell you that if the judge is saying that he or she wants to see compliance, you can argue all you want, your case is gonna go down to 2, if you don't have compliance.
There's
What's a judge who did question your ability to do that, and luckily, he had a degree in sound and everything, so,
Which
Yeah,
was.
I mean, the judge did.
We were lucky with our supervisor Lobenheim because he does have training from his Hollywood days in sound and audio and film and things like that. So that's what
So they are.
got us by that hurdle. Other than that, I'm not sure if he would have let him testify.
So wait, just interject here. There are acoustical engineers out there that would be the top of the pyramid in terms of qualifications. What I'm suggesting is these sound and light meters are very simple to use. And you can use them for the initial, resolving of a problem. If it then gets challenged, then you hire the acoustical engineer to come in and put the rubber stamp on the report, and then it's a done deal. You can use a noise meter on your cell phone and get, it's pretty accurate compared to what you would get with a $1,000 instrument. So I don't see it as an issue at all. Let this gentleman do all the light metering and sound metering he wants, and then if it gets challenged, then we go to the next step.
Can I say something about that? And I like you, Robert. But most people who have problems with sound things, it's not weekdays. It's after hours on weekends. And it was always trying to call Robert and hoping he was in town at that time. So that's why I always find it important that we have somebody designated for that.
And close.
Yeah. That is my complaint, because let's face it.
On the weekend,
Weekends, it'll be, you know what I'm saying?
ever.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
thumbs up for me.
Is the regional police, do they have a non-emergency numbers for after hours?
We don't have regional police.
And the state.
Okay.
Not do any.
Yeah, they don't,
State
it's
police
a
only.
state police,
They
you have
have-
to have local.
They're
police.
so overrun, they don't
Their
respond.
exact words are, you have to go complain your teacher.
The state police are not required to enforce local ordinances.
Correct.
Only state law. So it does not. Yeah, it's not, that's not a thing for us.
Do you have other staff that help you, or is it all on you to do everything?
For Smithfield, it's just me.
Okay. Yes, Chris.
So when we were looking for a new zoning person, who else did we look?
I have no
at
idea. You're asking the
other
wrong
than-
people.
Other than.
He just introduced himself to us. It's up to the supervisors.
Were there other companies
Yes,
that bid or?
Yeah, I don't remember all of their names off the top of my head. I contacted 5 different companies, heard back from 3. John, yours was one.
We were only doing it to help out.
Yes, and we knew that that was temporary. I contacted SFM Consulting. I believe I heard from them. I contacted Barry Eisen Associates. They said that they weren't able to submit anything, and I don't recall the name of the 5th company. But I did contact 5 companies. You're very possibly the cheapest.
Not something that would have ordinarily been discussed at the public meeting, the different, professional
No,
services.
that's a different thing.
Right,
It's just like, because it's a professional service, it's the same way that we appoint Sean and Ron as our engineer and solicitor.
right, okay.
I
I just know that there have been some eyebrows raised and no offense, but only because I know that you guys know each other. like,
Yeah,
outside of
we
here.
worked together up in Tobyhanna Township, and from the start of all of this, I made the board aware of that right off the bat, that Matthew and I have worked as coworkers at Tobyhanna Township.
Right.
But the numbers came in and theirs was the cheapest.
Mhm.
have a question for Matthew. You said you're gonna be here on Thursday. What if but you will answer calls, so you get them through the answering machine, you check your answering thing
I'm
every day?
giving pretty much everybody my work phone number, my work cell, that they can reach me at any time.
Oh, okay. Okay. You wanna give it to them?
Yes.
Can be your best friend.
Yes.
No.
Well, hang on a second. I can't hear you. All right, go ahead.
Just backing up Christine's question, so I know you guys, Julia, you went out to 5 companies. Did you guys do like a financial analysis to find out, I know you said in one of the supervisors meetings that there were some HR related issues with having kind of an in-house person as a zoning officer, so that's kind of why you guys decided to outsource it. Was there an economic analysis done comparing the cost of subbing it out to a firm versus having an in-house person with salary, benefit, pension?
So you're getting into, first to clarify, I believe it was Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, that, we wanted to outsource this, so if we got to the point where we were unhappy with our services, we were able to quickly and easily shift companies. the contract, that we have now, it's either a 15 or a 30-day out. That we have to give them, like, hey, we're unhappy, we want to terminate this. And generally speaking, moving from one company to another is simple. As far as your second question, I can't answer that because to look at, and give out those numbers would disseminate private information from the individual who used to be an employee.
That's about the salary just included.
Yes, but you referenced other things like benefits, which are protected under certain clauses because it is no one's business the marital status of any of our employees. So that you were getting into murky waters with. We did consider the numbers and we looked at how much these services were each going to cost us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Buckle up.
Thank you.
Zoning's hard, get a helmet, right? No, thanks for coming in, thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks for coming, and come back anytime, all right? Actually, we may ask you to come back at some point down the road here.
Oh, yeah.
As we get into this, because, to be honest with you, because we've had years worth of questions on enforcement and related stuff, so that's fine, but yeah.
Our
go ahead.
meetings are Thursdays.
Yes, I've been made aware and I plan on coming to many planning commission meetings.
Very good, thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
All right. Any public comment? Yes, Brett.
Mr. Public. Probably for Julia, given the recognized, well, getting your arms around the backlog of work needed to catch up to where the zoning, where we're at with the backlog of work, and you're not wanting to incur astronomical bills. How?
The board is extremely lucky that they salaried me. I'll be in over this weekend, and I have been working far exceeding the 40-hour regular work week.
You get
So-
overtime, I hope.
No. That's what it means while you're salaried. It
That's
doesn't
a
matter if I
plus.
work 40 hours, it doesn't matter if I work 60. I'm here for the betterment of the township, and I've been putting in my own extra time to ensure that all of this stuff gets scanned in and we build the systems that we need. Both that Matt needs and Diana needs to make sure that our zoning comes up to snuff quickly.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
I like
Regarding the backlog that we're dealing with now, and if you have to ask for additional resources to manage that, is the public gonna be made aware of the predicament that we've been put in by the former zoning officer?
Insofar as that when problems come to light that need to be addressed, of course. I am not going to tell you how many, boxes of things I have gone through, how many boxes are slated to be shredded. And all of those problems that we find, because just in general, it's not a professional way to conduct business to air your dirty laundry. One of the things that I have made clear to my staff that I am standing by is that we all know that there is a very great opportunity for improvements in front of us. I don't want to turn around and start bashing past members of my staff based on their shortcomings, because that is very bad for morale. And it isn't the type of township that I want to be. Yes, we all acknowledge there have been errors, but it's our responsibility to identify those, correct them, and move forward as a conglomerate unit that is working together and working far more efficiently under the system that we have now.
Well said.
I have one question though. Evidently, there wasn't oversight on the last one. And I like Matt and I don't want him to feel bad because we did have problems. Is there gonna be oversight to make sure that the zoning officers gets
The
the job done?
systems.
Like, I don't know who was responsible for oversight on the last zoning officer.
Zoning officers are generally separate from everything. We've said this a couple different times. I cannot look at Matt and say,
No.
Matt, I am going to
You're
demand that
appointed
you go to this
supervisor.
property and enforce in this fashion. The only thing that we can say is, hey, we have received a complaint, you need to look at this. We don't get to tell him how his determinations work, but I hear your concern. And that has been one of the very important things for me, because I want my staff to be cross-trained. One of the really important things that we are moving towards is before, when our prior zoning officer was out of the office, whether it be for vacation or sick, zoning came to a halt. And that was because nobody else could issue permits, nobody knew where things were in the system. So to answer your question, we are building systems, so we're not here yet, please give us more time. But you will eventually be able to come in and say, hey, I'm here to pick up my permit. And it doesn't matter if it will be me, if it will be Diana, if it will be another member of my staff. Any staff member will be able to look at our SOPs, our lists, and say, okay, here's your permit, here's where it is in the process.
Okay.
So those questions won't go unanswered if somebody
Second.
takes multiple vacations.
And whatnot. Is that all water under the bridge at this point, or are any of those things able to be remedied?
Those discussions are currently open, and he is having those discussions with our solicitor to determine what we are able to do. Because those are open investigations, I don't want to speak any.
Who's he that's having the discussions with our solicitor?
Matthew Helbers is speaking with Ron
Okay, all right.
on those particular issues.
Right.
And are those issues, open to the public's
No,
knowledge or?
actually, those are gonna be legal questions, Chris.
Last three township?
Uh,
Request.
two, same class township. All right,
I
I make a motion, yeah, right, I make a motion, we adjourn, seconded by Doug. In favor, aye. Have a nice day, we'll see you in a month.
Thank you.
The very, a lot shorter. Yeah, how you doing? What option you have, DeBoer?
Better control over the.
You just coming?